Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to this podcast on Back to Ancient Healings. This is the first podcast in the series of podcasts I am planning to create based on how effective the ancient healings were. Unfortunately, we have been losing this ancient wisdom and our science over the period of time, and my ambition in life is to revive them based on modern science and proof of practice. Having been born in an Orthodox family right from my childhood, I was always asked to follow, or maybe forced to follow, if I may say so, some rigid rules and regulations. For example, not to sleep with head on in the northern direction. Curious on the strict rules, I demanded an explanation. And as usual, my grandfather said, "Shut up and listen to the elders and follow their commands and not to question." But today, science has proved that this is absolutely correct. My grandfather was absolutely correct, and his great grandfathers were all absolutely correct, because science has proved that by putting your head on the northern direction and sleeping the next day, you will be tired and you will not have a good sleep, because not pole, the like poles repel each other and all that. So through these podcasts, God willing, I'm trying to revive the ancient wisdom and ancient healings to the current generation. From the earlier years of my life, my passion was always to give presentation either in my school or in my engineering college. This led to be in the marketing profession in the initial period of my career, because I love marketing and I love talking to people, interacting with them, and all that. Subsequently, I moved to IT field. I got the opportunity to be trained in conducting programs on human values, completing course level 1 and 2 certifications, and for the last 6 years conducted various programs for entrepreneurs, parents, and also had the opportunity to conduct human values at halfway houses in US. They are the living communities where people coming out of prison are housed, and also professionals and housewives. Recently became a certified Ho'oponopono plus emotional freedom technique healer. Conducted healing sessions for more than 30 participants in the last 6 months. It is again on self healing based on ancient traditions and all that. When I was conducting such healing sessions, I was wondering how the ancient healings found and propagated by ancient cultures like Hindus in India, Greeks, Egyptians, Chinese, Mayans, etc. Unfortunately, these are not being used or practiced by human beings these days. The universe, you may call it God if you believe in God, prompted me to bring back the ancient healing process, talk about present scientific proof for these healing process. And some of them have already been done, and also identify people who have practiced this process and found results for to heal physical or emotional issues. Now, talking about ancient wisdom and ancient healings, in this first podcast, I would like to discuss how ancient Indian classic music can heal our body both physically and emotionally. Now, today, I have the pleasure of introducing a young college student who's good in Indian classical music as a singer and also have knowledge in the fundamentals of this particular music. I believe that songs have miraculous cure for many of our physical and emotional issues. Welcome, dear Kriti Raghavan, and thank you so much for agreeing to share your knowledge. Kriti had completed her undergraduation in economics in India, and she'll be pursuing her master's in public policy in the University of Chicago. She also conducted training programs for young budding singers in singing in the right traditional way. Okay, Kriti, let's start. At what age did you start singing? And what prompted you to start learning music? Was it self interest or prompted by your parents?
Firstly, thank you so much for introducing me and having me here. I'm so excited to speak to you about this topic, something that's very close to my heart. I started learning Carnatic music when I was 3.5 years old, and it began as something that I think I was forced by my parents because that's usually how it starts in most families in South India. But I think like over a couple of years, and as I transitioned to learn from a teacher who understood me and taught it to me in a way that was interesting, I started to like to go by myself and not through any kind of pressure.
Lovely, lovely. Singing a song is for enjoyment. That's what I think. Can you please share your thoughts on what else can this be helpful to us?
Absolutely. From my experience, I think as a person who's learning the art form, it's a way of being more mindful or conscious when you're singing because it allows you to concentrate so intensely on how complex and intricate the art form is. And I think that's true for a lot of Indian arts and art forms around the world. So that is from the side of learning the art form. I think it makes you a lot more disciplined. It makes you a lot more conscious of what you're doing in the moment. And I would say at some points it even allows you to like go into a meditative state where you don't necessarily be aware of all of the surroundings because you're so involved in practicing this art form, right? But also from a person who's the standpoint of a person who's listening to the art form, I think it is an acquired taste, but if you start to appreciate the art form, it can be a meditative experience even to listen to it. Because of its complexity, it makes the person who's listening to it a very conscious part of understanding what this music is. So yeah, I think it has a lot of
Lovely.
benefits. Yeah.
Very interesting, very interesting. By singing some songs, can I cure myself? Or is it okay to hear the song, or should I sing the song to have the healing effect?
So there's actually quite a lot of data that has gone into studying this topic. So I wouldn't say that you necessarily needed to sing it to experience the full benefits of it. There are a couple of studies done by some premier institutes that show evidence of people being cured by just listening to music. One such example is a study conducted by IIT Kanpur, where there were about like 40 healthy young men who had no prior experience with any kind of formal music training. But each of these participants were made to listen to certain ragas, and the impact of it was calculated by kind of looking at their EEG brain scans. And there was like a visible indication of lack of stress or a feeling of much more pleasantness. So that is one example of an area in which a person who's just merely listening to this art form could see some benefits and reduce stress levels. There are many more studies, but another one.
Oh, what is this? What is this? What is the new element in singing a song? What are ragas? And is it essential while singing?
So ragas are nothing but if anyone who's watching this is familiar with Western classical music, what we call a scale, which is like a set of notes, musical notes. In Indian classical music, we call that scale a raga. So each of the ragas have different notes that make it, and because of that, they sound different and evoke different kind of emotions. So maybe a person who's not having a day that's not very happy, listening to a raga which has notes that evoke happiness or sound pretty happy and lighthearted could help them, kind of transition their mood.
This is great. This is great. But I'm a little confused. Is it the song or a particular raga that is useful for healing?
Well, primarily it would be the raga because of the notes that are in the raga that are basically like happy. But what's also important to note is that any melody or a song is made up of notes. So notes make up a raga, and then the notes within that raga make the song. So in a way, the song also can heal you. It depends on, it's also a very deeply personal experience. For each person, listening to certain notes may evoke a certain emotion, and for some people, it might evoke a different one. So largely, I would say it's the raga and then the song.
Okay, a layman like me,
Hmm.
how do I come to know which raga will give which healing power or effect?
So there are a lot of resources online that can help with answering the particular question you asked. So we'll have those in the link in the bio of this video itself, some resources to
Mhm.
explore. But just off the top of my head, These are just associations made by collective experiences of many people, which are also at the end of the day subjective, you know. But a lot of people associate happiness, for example, with a ragam called Mohanam. And there are a lot of people who associate lullabies or calming emotions with a ragam called Neelambari. And maybe like a bit more seriousness or devotion, spirituality with a ragam called Pantuvarali. So it's more that you'd associate a ragam with an emotion as opposed to curing a certain disease or a certain illness. So whatever emotion helps you in your healing journey, if you introduce that through your ragas, it's likely to help and benefit you.
Oh, lovely. So that means once my emotional issues are resolved, it automatically resolves my physical issues also. That's very, very interesting.
To a large
Now,
extent. Yes.
yeah, lovely, great, 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 lovely. Are there any scientific proof that this particular raga will cure this particular ailment, physical or emotional?
Right. So there are quite a few studies, and without getting into too much detail of how they were conducted, we'll have the larger studies, of course, linked and everything below. But in this particular IIT study itself, there were a lot of classical ragas that were put for these 40 men who didn't have formal training in music. And they were seen to have like effects that showed that they had calmer states of mind. And that was done particularly through two ragams, Ragam Darbari and Ragam Jogia. So these are the names of two ragams that there's scientific proof that, you know, they kind of helped calm the state of mind of the 40 individuals chosen for the experiment. Yeah.
Lovely. That is scientific proof. Now, is there any practical proof or
Hmm.
people who can say that, hey, we have come out and say that my issues have been resolved when I sang or heard a particular song with a particular raga? Is there any practical proof?
Well, I could speak from my experience, which is that as both a listener, actually, in the past few years, I would consider myself more a listener than a practitioner myself. I've noticed that, like, after understanding the art form and knowing some ragas that make me feel better, I apply them a lot in like real world settings. So if I'm not having the nicest day and I want something that will uplift my mood, I've noticed that if I listen to this ragam called Kamboji, I usually feel a lot better. Or if I'm having trouble going to bed, then I listen to a ragam called Neelambari. So it's also this kind of process that I think each individual has to explore, and it can be a lot of fun because you know, then you find out this very individual toolkit that works for you. And yeah, I think that's my practical experience.
Maybe we can create a place where people can go visit maybe a website and say that, hey, if you have certain emotional problems, here is a song you can listen to and all that. It can be Indian classical music, or
Hmm.
can it be also a western music and all that. So maybe we should build up some library as sort of it. What
For
do you
sure.
think?
Yes, absolutely. We'll do that.
That'll be great and all that. And maybe what we can do is in our next podcast, I will try to talk to and discuss with people who have, I believe I've heard a news somewhere that a lady has gone to the hospital, and she sings a particular song. She first diagnoses the patient's problem, and accordingly she sings a song and then tries to cure the patient, or at least calm down the patient and make the patient better quicker and all that. Maybe I think such people, I will try to identify and see that I have a podcast with them. That will give us a practical proof that it can be done. And not only that, listeners to this video or podcast can also try and see if it is successful to them. To be believe to a lot of people come to me and say that, hey, I'm not able to have a good sleep, or so it is so much tension in my office that when I come back home, I just let it out on my family and all that.
Hmm.
That time, maybe when they come home, before even talking to their any family members, they can maybe listen to the song, and then they quieten down and calm down and all that. when we come back home after yeah, tiresome working in the office, before even you start interacting with your family members, I think you should try to listen to a song, calm down and then interact. It'll be a good interaction with the family, because even in the office, suppose you're walking into the office in the early in the morning, and you know that day it's going to be a tough meetings and all that, maybe you can listen to the song even for a few minutes. I think you will have a calm mind, and your work will be very, very productive that day. That will be great. I think this we can try it out. And as I said, we will try to have people come out and say, this is the song I heard with this particular raga, with these notes, and I was able to cure myself of worries. Some are anxious,
Mm.
some are worried, some are sad, in their life. And this is where the ancient wisdom has told us that, don't worry, everything will be sorted out and all that, but we don't trust them, believe them. But I think when we listen to these songs and all that, your anxiety will go away, your sadness will go away, and you'll be with enthusiasm and keep smiling. That's one is important. When you come home, when your parents or spouse looking at you, they will say that, oh, now he's so and so is smiling, I think we'll have a good time and all that. So I think that, or maybe on the when you drive back to your house, or any place, you can listen to these songs and then play these songs and quieten down yourself. First, not only for others, even for ourselves, right? When you feel sad, when you feel anxiety, a lot of physical problems can also affect you and all that. So we can resolve these problems also. So that's great, hearing from you this. There are certain things that we have to do. Maybe we can build up a website which will show that for these songs so and so, or with your URL that you have provided. We can always go and check, or ask people. They can even send it an email to the common email, back to ancient healings at gmail.com. And they can inquire, hey, this is what the problem we are having. Is there a particular song or a particular note? Either it can be Indian classical music, or it can be Western also, right? And then
Yeah.
say that, which is the best song I can listen to, this so and so scenario and all that. Thank you so much. It was so lovely. Very happy to know that singing songs with ancient ragas can resolve a lot of physical and emotional issues. Now, Kruti, how would you like to conclude today's session, or what are the takeaways for the listeners?
Hmm. I would say probably that to go into it realizing that it's a very individual process and that it can be really fun to actually listen to music and figure out what works for you. So I would say that it is an acquired taste, but if you stick through with listening to Carnatic music for a little while and kind of put in a little effort into trying to understand what it's all about, then it can be really fun. And it can be something that helps you in more ways than you can imagine when you get started.
Thank you so much, Kruti. Thank you so much. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors, your future studies, and I'm sure you'll be helpful to the society by coming out with more such information and sharing your knowledge. Thank you so much. Dear listeners, we would follow up with people narrating their practical issues that has been resolved in our next video. Kindly click on the subscribe button below this video so that you get instant messages when the next video is released, and subscribe to this video also. Thank you, and happy self healing so that we are all happy in our life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.